Back in my Halo armor video, a piece of armor I never really mentioned or talked about was the Anubis armor. Didn't bring it up in context as if I like it, or if I didn't like it, or if it needed work, or... I've always liked the helmet to a degree, but I don't know, it seemed like either something was missing or something was off. Not in a way that made the armor unlikable, but I don't know. So today I thought I'd do something well, it's not different. Everything's fucking different on this channel, but... So I thought today I'd go through the armor and just analyse it. My thoughts, where I think they pulled inspirations from, what I think of the skins, and things I believe that could fix the armor, because during the process of making this video, I thought the conclusion to actually making the armor maybe more appealing wouldn't correlate to what I was saying in my Halo 5 video, which was it needs to be like original Halo. But I don't think that's very true here. I think it could be improved in other ways, as we'll go through now. So what is the purpose, intention, or function of this armor according to Halo 5? Originally a technology demonstrator for Lethbridge Industrial's successor to the M805 X's thruster pack, the Anubis was retooled as a limited production Mjolnir variant when thrusters were integrated into all Gen 2 armor. Whatever the fuck that means. So the Anubis armor does fit its description quite well, I think. If you look at the large shoulder blade pieces on his back, they would be where the thrusters are on the actual Spartan. Same with the little pieces on the legs, just below his hips. Those could be where the thrusters could be ported as well. So the armor does actually do what it says. So from a technical standpoint, from a descriptive standpoint, they've probably I'd say they succeeded in, achieving what they wanted to achieve. As for if the actual armor is any good itself, well, I guess that's more subjective, so I'll go through what I think. Okay, so first things first, we'll probably go over the helmet. And the helmet is, it's probably the best part of the armor, to be honest, in my opinion. Maybe besides the skin of the default Anubis. I don't like how it stands out from the rest of the armor. The rest of the armor has minimal gold, whereas the helmet has like a lot of it, but whatever. For its actual design, I think it's quite intimidating. It's got like a nice, I don't know if it would be profile, it's got like nice angles on it, and the vise is really interesting, and we haven't really seen something like that yet. I like the plating on the side, how it sticks out slightly. It doesn't look ridiculous, in my opinion. The weird bumps on the corners of the top of his helmet look a bit strange. I don't know why they're there, but other than that, I think the helmet's fine for the most part. Okay, regarding the name Anubis, obviously that has nothing to do with thruster packs and stuff, but I think it does actually suit what the name suggests. It's not just called Anubis because Anubis is a cool name, It's not just called Anubis for the sake of calling it Anubis. For example, the legs, they kind of look like jackal legs in a way, with that sort of, I don't know, a better way of describing it other than chicken legs, but you see what I mean? They've got like angles to them, and it kind of looks like, I don't know, an Anubian or a jackal sort of design. The large shoulder blade pieces kind of remind me of wings in a way. They're like folded up wings against his back. And I guess that's weird for a Spartan to have, but maybe it's a thing to do with Egypt, and then I guess maybe gods. I don't know if Anubis himself had wings, but I assume other gods did, so yeah, fine, I could see that. It's functional to the name, so, fair enough. There are issues, like, they're mostly just issues that are with the fucking game, again, like, I can't get away from them, but, like, if you look at the side bits, where the arms come through, you can see it looks like it's just been slapped on like every other fucking piece of armor, and it doesn't fit him or her correctly. It's just stuck on there, which annoys me, because I do kind of like the shape and profile of the chest. Shoulders, I don't like. I don't think they offer much protection. I think they're a little bit simple. The simplicity's fine, but like you got the big pauldrony piece for, I guess, bulky armor, and you got the tiny slits on her, I guess it would be the front of her arms and the back as well, and it just looks kind of weird. Like, if you're just gonna take away the band armor from like Reach or 3, why would you just supplement it with something that's worse? Makes no sense. So no, that doesn't make any sense. The actual forearms, I think, are awful and too bulky, and again, it's just drilled into her undersuit, his or her undersuit. It sticks out too much. It's square and odd, and it doesn't fit to her arms correctly. Okay, so this one is Anubis Nephthys, And yeah, at face value, looking at it on the actual armor selection screen, it looks fine, but the issues come when you realize that most of the colors shown on it you can't change. So if you scroll through to, like, all the other colors, only like a third of the actual armor color changes at all. So that's an issue it does have, but it does look fine if you get the right colors. But I just think it's too cluttered. I think the actual armor skins were not built around the armor, or painted around the armor, I guess you could say. I think they were just more thrown on, like the armor itself, to the body. But like, look at all the details on the chest, just under, like, the bottom of the chest, I guess. You can't see them in the this skin. You can't see them at all. It's like they're just not there anymore. It's completely covered out. And how are you going to see them when you're fighting? Just kind of feels like the skin wasn't really painted with the armor in mind. It was just thrown on, and wasn't really painted around it. So the default skin kind of worked. It was just sort of block, right? It was hardly any of it. Nipples doesn't really do that. It's too complicated, I think. But that's what I think of, nipples. Okay, so Anubis set, I'd say, is a step up from Nepal's. Yeah, it's a bit better. You have more control over what you can change. You've still got the dark grey accents, but most of the colours can be changed. So yeah, it looks a bit nicer. It works a bit better with the details on the chest. But again, I think there's too much going on. How do you focus on that detail? What is that detail supposed to look like? Is it an emblem? Is it a faction? Or is it just some detail that has nothing to do with Egypt or whatever the armor was designed for? No, I don't think it doesn't, does it? It doesn't the armor doesn't give them enough room to breathe, if that makes sense. I think this skin does show off better that the undersuit being coloured really does kind of ruin the rest of the chest, because like, it doesn't help it pop. I keep using that word a lot, but it's important. The chest is an important part of the piece. Important part of the armor, I should say. So the fact that the shoulders, the surrounding bits you can see on the underside don't really make it stick out more, And then you've got all the details of the undersuit and all the colours on it, and it really doesn't help the skin nor the armor pop. So yeah, in conclusion with that, the armor is fine. There's a couple of issues here and there, but it does look like what it's kind of supposed to look like. Yeah, it's fine. It's just it's let down by the recurring problems. So where do we go from here then? So with it being in the game, I am happy for it to be there. It's fine. It's just, it's got some niggly little issues that I don't really like. But instead, I think I'd expand upon that idea of it being Egyptian. I think that could be a cool idea. Maybe fixing on the issues I've touched upon here, like, the designs not being very Art Deco and not being very, representative of what the namesake is for. So I guess let's look into that. So first things first, I did some reference gathering on the internet. I looked for Egyptian hieroglyphics and wall murals of depictions of themselves, specifically with them wearing clothing that was related to either just royalty or even just warriors. I didn't explicitly look for that, but that's what I stumbled across, I suppose. I observed that they wear this sort of circular collar thing over their chests. You'll see images of it on screen, and I saw a lot of them wearing that, and the ones that did wear that looked kind of above the, I guess, above the social status of slave, I suppose. I thought, yeah, that looks quite traditionally Egyptian. Maybe I could pull that from the pictures I was looking at. So something else I noticed as well was a lot of the Egyptian warriors, or the ones that looked like warriors, often had abdomens that weren't covered with anything. So you could see their sort of like six-pack or whatever they had, which kind of made me think, yeah, maybe something like that could go on the armor in some way. Maybe some intricate design underneath the chest I could do, perhaps. So this is a sketch of the observations I made. As you can see, I've got the circular collar chest piece that's like those clothing you just saw, connected to a more simplified chest, because the issue Anubis had was it was kind of too cluttered and, not simple. Underneath, I've got the armor pieces that kind of make it look like a abdomen, like a six-pack, to make it resemble that kind of Egypt warrior look. And those were the main observations I took from what I saw. But I also added things like a cloak, because that's kind of traditionally or stereotypically like a desert attire. Same with the robe at the front thing. The eagle on the shoulder was a little bit of a something that just popped into my head. I thought I'd see how it looked, and yeah, I added the traditional waistband armor for obvious reasons. I like it. And I went for a bit of asymmetry with the shoulder piece and one arm being armoured and one arm not being armoured. I thought maybe it would look kind of interesting, and like he's more of a traveller warrior kind of deserty person. I don't know. Yeah, okay, so I expanded on the chest after drawing that little sketch up. My main thoughts were clarifying things and adding a little bit more detail just to keep it from being a little bit boring. So I gave it this interesting sort of centre shape, like well, it's not a diamond, but that centre shape in the middle with the pieces connected to it on either side, connecting around the arms. And going underneath the arms as well to give it this interesting shape, and in the middle of said shape a little motif of some description. I don't know why I chose that design. I just thought it, might look interesting or whatever. But as well, the more noticeable difference I added was the spikes on top of the shoulder blade pieces. I just thought, well, I'm not really sticking to Halo, so I might as well go a bit nuts, right? Make something maybe interesting or a bit weird, well, why not? So yeah, the only really thing I added regarding the shoulders was just the eagle, but I also forgot to mention that I added the sort of band armor from like Reach and 3, because again, like, why would you get rid of it if you're just going to put something worse in its place? So as I mentioned, I really did not like the arms of the original Anubis. So here I've gone with a more layered kind of simple look. Initially I was just going to use the arms from Halo Reach, but I thought, no, I'll make my own. So it's like layered metal. I didn't really look into Egyptian gauntlets or vambraces or whatever you'd call them. I actually took inspiration from Helioscryll with that layered kind of metal. I thought that might look interesting or old even, so that's why I chose that. I even attempted wings at some point, since the actual shoulder blade armor resembled wings, or at least I mentioned it did. So I tried to see what they might look like in a UNSC design, but I really couldn't figure out how to get them right, so I ended up leaving it. But it was probably worth trying at least. Maybe I should have actually drawn a full figure of the Anubis armor with the wings, but never mind. I left the helmet out of the original sketch because I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do with it, but I gave sketching it a go, and I obviously looked over an illustration of Anubis, and I noticed obviously he has those really pointed jackal ears, so I thought, if we're going to go far away from the Halo design, why not stick some ears on it? And I mean, it might make it look kind of cool or scary or something. So I tinkered around with, like, should they be tall, should they be short, should they be curved, should they be angular, what should they look like, should something be in the middle of them? As you can see here, that's what I tried. So that's when I decided to add everything all together just to see what it looks like, and I'm really happy with how it looked like. But this is just to see what progress I was making. I thought it was coming along quite nicely, to be honest. Observations at the time, I'd say, yeah, I didn't really like the look of the taller ears on the helmet. I think that should be shrunk. I think this kind of shows off a bit more of the Egyptian theme than the original. Although, the original had its own functions. I was happy with how this one was going. I decided to re-add the gauntlet armor onto the other arm. The asymmetry of having one gauntlet missing and one there, yeah, it's cool, but I thought, it makes more sense as a Spartan to, I guess, be more armoured, but the cloak adds an aspect of asymmetry, so, Also, I decided to see what adding the cloak would look like around the neck, like a poncho, I suppose, and it looks okay, but I think it needed a bit of work on this one. Yeah, that's what the armour looked like at this point. In the next sketch, I decided I'd try and angle the armor, interestingly. And this is when I felt like it really started to get movement, like I could see what I wanted to do. Like the helmet here looks like how I pictured it in my head. The chest is coming together quite nicely. And yeah, although she's a bit tall and slim, I could really see it coming together after this. So I used this one to try out colours as well. I didn't want this to be the main big sketch. And here's some observations on colours. So as you can see, I've coloured it in slightly, and I've gone with like the grey and gold thing as you saw earlier. There's some things I'm happy with, there's some things I'm not. Like the decal on her head, I think is very good, I like it. It's kind of evokes that Egyptian swirly kind of patterns. Decals on her chest, I think, work as well. And the decision to do the arms one solid colour was, I don't know, I think I saw... I'm not sure what it was. It might have been a skin from Halo Infinite, that where the chest is and the body is all one colour and the arm was like red, but I decided maybe gold would look good, and I think it does, but I don't like how the little details on the hips are coloured, or how the legs, the shins are coloured. But now I'd like to see what the actual skins from the default Anubis armour would look like on this chest. So here we've got my designed chest and the original, and obviously I'm not going to say which one's better, because but yeah, I tried to evoke a more Egyptian colliery style to the top of the armor, and the rest to form a bit nicer against the bodies, less sticky outy. And also I think you could easily add more patterns and more interesting designs and colors onto my version as well, because it's smoother and there's less details to get cluttered in with the actual designs. Like on the old one, there isn't much space to add anything visible. Like, there's all angles and things going on, whereas mine, there's quite a few flat surfaces. Not that every armour should have that, I just think that it works better with the Deco Egyptian style. I must admit, I think the Nefer... Fuck me, I'm never going to be able to pronounce that one. But I think that skin actually looks quite a lot better on the version of Anubis I've created. It feels like it can breathe a lot more, and there's not necessarily any clutter in the centre that's distracting or you miss. There's only that little design. Although the abdomen shapely stuff you can't really see anymore, you know, that's fair enough. I guess you can't avoid that. And you've still got the issue of the secondary colour not being really present. But I think it stands out a bit more. There's more there. I still don't really like it. I think there's too much going on, but at least you can kind of see it. Default looks fine, a bit boring, but, you know, I mean, it looked fine on the actual original armour, so I don't see why it wouldn't look fine here. And set looks fine as well. Again, like, you know, it is fine. I don't know what the designs are supposed to be. You know, why them design specifically? What do they have to do with Anubis? I don't know, but I've already covered that. So I guess it looks fine, although I think actually Neferthes looks better than Set on this armour. And then you have mine next to Set. I decided to go with a much simpler design because the arms are going to be full block colour, as I mentioned. But I wanted to see what it would look like to actually just have minimal colour, like mostly grey, a tiny speck of gold, but a noticeable amount of gold. So now we reach what I initially wanted to be the final sketch of this video, and the final coloured piece. And I guess I am happy with the basics of how it looks. Though I wish I did a second one where I showed off the arms more, how they're gold. So I wish I did that, so you could see how it all comes together with the colours, but never mind. I think the gold little accents on the front, on the middle grey parts, like a helmet, a chest and her legs, I think those look pretty good. I think you only really need the tiny flecks of gold to get across the message you want to set, that it's Egyptian. But unfortunately I did a background for it, and that didn't really work as to how I wanted it. But I didn't really want to give up on trying to make a final painted piece, because I was quite happy with the work I'd done so far. So I gave it another shot, and hopefully I didn't fuck it up this time. I decided to give her the Whisper of the Worm weapon from Destiny, because Halo doesn't really do any weapons themed around Egypt mythology. Density does, so I decided to use that, and here's a sketch of me seeing what it would look like with her before I actually set it to paper. Before I finish the video, I'd like to mention that 343 actually made another version of Anubis. I believe it's going to be Anubis anyway, for Halo Infinite. And we have an image of it here, and I bring it up because it's actually the opposite of what I tried to design here. It's actually an Anubis that sticks more closely to traditional Halo aesthetics, and like, holy shit, they made it work. Like, oh my god, look at it. It looks way more militarized. The shoulders are similar, admittedly with a few more details. Like, you've got the ammo pouches, you've got the waist belt, and the design as well, like the colors. Bloody hell. So I thought I'd say, you know, here's a comparison of all the Anubises I've used in this video. So which would you prefer? Would you say it's 343s, mine, or 343s again? Thank you for watching. For the most part, I guess I just really wanted to see if I could do anything with the Anubis armor. Again, as I said, it's not awful, but I just wanted to see if I could make it look any better without it making it look like anything to do with traditional Halo. Go further away from the root. You know, I guess I'll leave that up to you if it looks any good. So yeah, thanks for watching.